man, this could go to 100, 200, 300, 500,000 in a week. Like it's Bitcoin. Humans can't understand the exponential, adoption here. And when there's only 10% of the coins available or whatever it is, no one's selling them. Price is the only thing that moves. But that probably will be the thing that really spurs a lot of the tide, right? If you have sovereign wealth, money or pensions and endowment, if these people coming into Bitcoin, that's going to really change the game, obviously, right? The foundation, though, for it to stick, though, is the bottom, from bottom up.
Bing bong. I'm back with another edition of the State of Bitcoin podcast, where I've got Brandon Gentile of the Bitcoin trading cards, which are just absolutely blowing up. We were talking a little bit about pre-show, so we're going to get into all of that. But we can't dodge the price at this point, right? I mean, we have the scarcest internet money that could possibly be. We're recording this on the March 8th, and Bitcoin passed 70K today. It passed the 69,420 mark. It did all that. So, Brandon, let's start there, man. How you feeling with the price ripping and rolling? And yeah, we're all gonna make it now, right?
My goodness, it was funny you say that. Like I think it was my wife or someone texted me earlier and of like a screenshot of the price, and I had no idea. Like I haven't checked it since like I don't know, like yesterday or yesterday morning or something like that. But it's like, we were just talking offline. Like we got so many different things going on and trying to educate people about Bitcoin that you just get lost sometimes. And it's like as a team, actually, we were talking about how we didn't even feel whether the price is at breaking all-time highs or like, a year and a half ago when it was, lows for the cycle or whatever is down to 15,000. It's like, it's the same feeling. Like a mission's not accomplished until you've taken over all of fiat and it's all been, sucked into the black hole that is Bitcoin. That's when I think I'll feel like I can finally kick my feet back and be like, okay, now we're good.
No, I mean, I completely get that. But I mean, you started off right with about the education aspect of things, right? So I imagine you interact with a lot of different people. You give them the trading cards, and we'll get into all that and how you guys are absolutely crushing it here in a minute. But the education aspect of it, I think, is something that, it's not necessarily, I guess, lost in a sense, but it's like, well, orange pilling is always a very fluid conversation, right? It's always like, what is, you got to meet somebody where they're at. I just talked with, or just heard her talk with Michael Saylor about the 5 kind of different areas you can be, somebody that, absolutely hates it. Somebody that's like, what is this funny internet money thing? You got the traders, you got the people that are kind of hodling, and then you have the full-fledged Bitcoin maxis. So, kind of figuring out where those people are can kind of help you orange pill them. But you guys obviously found a unique approach with the orange pill packs and everything like that. How is that conversation going now? Google search trends are starting to get up a little bit more on Bitcoin, but it seems like the normie kind of aspect of Bitcoin and it's still a little quiet on the Western front here. So how's that conversation been developing over the last couple months comparatively to maybe a couple years ago?
Yeah, it's a great question. And it's something I'm glad you brought that up because it's something I've been thinking about a lot in just the last few weeks. It feels, well, I guess it has been the last few weeks. It feels like a few months almost, but I mean, the price was like a week or two, a couple weeks ago, it was in the 50s or whatever. And it was just like, it was like, like this is wild. We're 20% away from an all-time high. And it feels like no one was talking about it. You get it on the national news here and there, CNBCs, stuff like that. But I just was kind of blown away at the little fanfare it was getting nationally, but also people, maybe friends and family, people that would come to you. It was just like you said, all quiet on the Western front. I was like, what is going on? Like, how is this sneaking up on everybody? And, you kind of think back to, I think, other cycles too. And it's, probably how it always happens. Like it spikes in the past and then people kind of get desensitized to it in a way. And it's like, okay, like it's back or it's getting there. But yeah, like you said, the Google search volume, everything is way down from where it was in 2017, 2021. And I think it's 2 things in a way. You mentioned Saylor. Like Saylor's one big thing is that people don't, or they're not interested. The one big thing for Bitcoin now, like the fear factor with it in a way, or for Bitcoiners, I should say, the thing that he fears, at least, if I could speak correctly, is that people just aren't interested in sound money. And it's not necessarily a technical thing, or something that might go wrong. It's just that people lose interest. And I think that's where you see like the central bank digital currencies, or you see the governments, where they're always trying to gaslight, right? They're always trying to, manipulate with, these different psychological tactics where they're trying to dissuade people. They're trying to coerce people or dissuade people because really they know too. I mean, that's the only thing that can stop Bitcoin is people lose interest for some reason. Fortunately, the properties of Bitcoin obviously are to our advantage, and humans are going to generally seek the hardest money. So it's going to be hard to stop that. But to me, that really is that thing. I think that search volume though is kind of interesting though, because you're seeing things across the world. It's fascinating that Bitcoin, the traffic, the search volume could be that low still, when it is getting towards all-time highs in the last month. But now like you said, you're starting to see it creep up again a bit. Obviously, price is so huge. Either like really good things happening make people get into Bitcoin generally, or really bad things. And I think that's why I'm sure you that having the calling inside of you, doing what you do, content creators, what we're doing at Bitcoin trading cards, just me starting to do content again after years of doing real estate, getting back into leaving real estate to come into Bitcoins. I knew I had to be in this space and commit full time to this world of educating people. That's the push. We have to fight against that system. And you're seeing this push pull in a way, and we don't want bad things to happen. At the end of the day, that's the thing. We don't want the Canadian trucker situations to happen in order people to get orange pilled. I think that's the scary part for me, having 4 kids, your family, my families, all of our families. We don't want bad things to happen. I don't want us to have to, get hit by a car crossing the road. Let's just watch someone else cross the road, see what they do, and learn from other people's mistakes instead of us having to do it ourselves. And I think that's really what drives, I know me, and I'm sure a lot of us, is that we're trying to educate and get out in front of that so we can minimize the collateral damage.
Yeah, and I mean that's great. And I didn't know this about you. I didn't know you used to be in real estate, and I kind of want to dive into that here for a
Yeah.
second because I think it's interesting. You see all the gold bugs on Twitter, like they're like 95% of the way there. They just don't get the digital
Mhm.
aspect of things. But the real estate people, they're almost there too, right? Because it's all like the hard asset kind of mindset thing. So from your former colleagues, obviously you don't have to name names or call anybody out here specifically, but what was their kind of, I guess, like overall vibe when it came to Bitcoin, or kind of like you trying to explain the hard asset aspect of it, the hard money kind of thing? Was there a big disconnect, or, where did you, I guess, kind of see the disconnect for those that didn't really get it and get to the full-fledged like orange pill side of things?
And to your earlier point, it's a great question. To your earlier point as well, that's kind of where the cards have come into play, right? So like my journey was real estate. I played hockey my entire life, and I played at Michigan State University. Then I played in the pros for a few years, and then leaving that, seeing the great financial crisis was really when I was playing professionally or leaving Michigan State and then playing professionally. And then when I really realized it was not red versus blue, it was a state versus you. And these two factions, red and blue, were on the same team, and we were not on that team. And that's what really led me down the road to, like you just mentioned, gold bugs. I became a gold bug. I became a real estate guy and a gold bug, and learning money. Robert Kiyosaki and Mike Maloney and all these people, Creature from Jekyll Island, getting into that in 2009 and 10, 11, 12, and seeing, wow, like we are being completely screwed over. And I had these writings and visions of, starting a YouTube channel at that time, which I think I did around that time. But then, the hockey things got in the way as I'm doing it, of course. And I wanted an education company. I wanted to educate people and children on these principles, on the American, founding documents, the founding fathers, natural law, first principles, and the things that I had seen success with, at least in my life up to that point of playing hockey, playing at elite levels, and just my thought process or frameworks of how I looked at things. Is that it was just always fascinating to me what made people successful and others, maybe weren't or couldn't find the success or whatever it was. But I was always fascinated with that of, kind of the human brain and how things work. So you kind of fast forward, this process plays out over the last 15 years, getting into real estate, and then hearing about Bitcoin in 2014, 15. I was always doing real estate, trying to market for my business and my team. So I was always doing Facebook lives and Instagram lives when these things were coming out in 20, whatever it was, 15, 16. And so people would ask me about Bitcoin. I'd be teaching about money and all the things I learned for 5 years at that point about real money and the real, about inflation and the real rates, things like that. What was actually going on behind the scenes. So people would ask me about Bitcoin here and there. And I'd always give them, like you said, the gold bug, kind of like, well, I want to hold things in my hands. I just hadn't done the homework yet. And then the 2017 run up happened, And I was like, like, okay, I gotta pay attention more to this. Like, this is really interesting. That's when I started diving into it more, but I didn't start buying until 2018. As an investor, I was like, well, I'm gonna wait till it goes down. Smart guy here. I'm gonna I'm gonna wait till it goes down. Which, as you know, and many of us listening, I'm sure you can never go down. Like that's the craziness about Bitcoin. It could have just kept going up forever. At that moment, long term it'll go up forever, but you don't know what you don't know. So I started buying then, but I didn't really start turning everything and all my stuff and really all my thinking, everything to Bitcoin until 2020, which was obviously, we all know what happened there. And many people, I'm sure, again, you're seeing what's happening. All my study of history and politics, everything kind of just like came together in 2020 and realizing, wow, we are way further down the timeline than I ever thought. I never thought I would see in America what I read about in history books through the fall of empires and different, dictators, fascists, despots, all these different things. And the apparatus, whatever you want to call it, the deep state, whatever it is, doing this to us and then cascading around the world. That was, to me, the biggest wake up call. And so I tell my real estate team, hey, about that next year, I'm figuring out how can I get into the space. Like it's go time. Like I have to really start educating people, and I'm being called into this direction, and real estate's taking up my time in a way, investing in properties, helping people buy and sell and things of that nature. And like you said, most people didn't really, I'm trying to think, in the real estate world, I mean, people get it. They get buying assets. Some people on the investment side, the retail side of people buying and selling, that's kind of normie land. I mean, it just is what it is, a cross section of society, obviously. But to me, it was, hey, the real estate's taking me out of my learning, my growth, and where I need to be truly educating people. And so I told my team, hey, you don't have to go home, but you can't stay here. Like I'm firing myself basically. And this is not going to exist anymore. And that's when I went to Pacific Bitcoin. So that was like into 21, early 22. And then I went to Pacific Bitcoin 2022, the first festival they did, which was my first event. I got onto Bitcoin Twitter in 2022, which I didn't know existed, didn't know all these people existed. I was like, where have these people been? Because I was always on other platforms for my real estate team, like Instagram and Facebook and all this other stuff. So I was just totally like awakened to all the people there, and go to Pacific Bitcoin. And that's where I actually didn't meet Aladdin, who they came out with Bitcoin trading cards. He and Darian, his co-founder, came out and introduced the Series 1 cards at that time. And so I met him like a week or two after, a couple weeks after, actually, because of people I met at Pacific Bitcoin. And community is so important just for anything in life, obviously, in relationships. And so going to the conferences, I almost didn't go. And, some last minute things happen. And my wife was like, no, you got to go. Like, let's go. And I was like, yep, let's do it. And so I go and I meet, just incredible people, and you're conversing with Bitcoiners for the first time in real life. And it was just blown away at the level of people, the quality of people that are at these conferences, these Bitcoin only conferences. And so I met a bunch of people that hooked me up with Aladdin. They're like, hey, you're into children's education and stuff. And I was just talking to a lot of people about the things that I felt passionate about and was working on, some kids books and things of that nature. And so like, hey, you should get it with Aladdin. Like he's working on some stuff too, like trading cards, whatever. So like that November, whatever it was, we got linked up and we were working on a different project actually. And which is still like, it's basically been shelved for now. It's in the wings, for some other time, but we were working on something else. And then that first series, he was just giving the packs away, which are now worth thousands and thousands of dollars. Of like each card, and the boxes are worth $10,000, like the original boxes, and he was just handing them out at Pacific Bitcoin, those packs and stuff, and because no one knew about it at that time. So he, like, I'm trying to think, of 2 months after the conference, they had sold out, like all the rest of the boxes had sold out. And so he basically came to us and just said, hey, like, we got this problem, kind of like, we need to get Series 2 out in like 3 or 4 months for Miami in May, and for Bitcoin Magazine's event. And we're working on this other project, but would it make sense for the handful of us here that are working on this new project to come over and we all work on Bitcoin trading cards together? And, everyone kind of was looking around, on Zoom or whatever we were on, and like, yeah. And I was like, yeah, dude, like if you have an offer that works, like if you have something that's working, we'd be stupid not to do that. And that was why we were there in the first place. It was kids education. How do you build this foundation, and things that all of us are passionate about. And so then we just kind of went right on. I was telling you offline, like we were helping the cards and the background, not the art. Aladdin was doing that with a couple of the artists, but we were helping the descriptions in the back and just editing and putting things together. And we jammed it out in like a month and got them to the printer. And we were using, at that time, I think it was that print. I can't remember, but we got hooked up with the Pokemon Magic the Gathering printer. And so they're, you can't get to them unless you know somebody. So we knew somebody, got to them, and then had like a month timeline or something like that, a month and a half, in order to get them ready for May, or for them to have enough time to get everything ready for May. And so anyway, that ended up working out, and we got them all like just in the nick of time, like before they were literally flying out from California to go to Florida. And we ended up selling out in like 3 weeks. That series 2, like 900 boxes. So it's 21,000 packs. It's 24 packs in a box, and it's about 900 boxes. So you can do the math or work backwards. But it's the scarce, one of the scarcest trading card series in the world, if not the most scarce, and with the most rare chases and the foils in there and stuff like that. So not to go too far down the weeds of that, but that was kind of, for me, seeing all this come together over the last year, and even right away getting hooked up with Aladdin, seeing all that, it just kind of like stoked the fire even more from me, and just kind of like was the cap on my thoughts of 10, 15 years ago of, boy, we need to create a Call of Duty. Like my things were like, we need a Call of Duty. For at the time, Call of Duty was massive, and which I think it still is or whatever, but it was like, how do you create like a founding fathers Call of Duty where kids are like learning, they're playing a game, but they're learning at the same time? Because there's just such a massive education gap that you could tell, you can't even argue with many people in society because there's so little going on upstairs. And I'm not trying to be conceited at all, but there's so little brain activity going on because we've been so desensitized, as you know, through fiat, just desensitizing everyone from everything. Here, sedate with this, here, sedate with those drugs, here, sedate with that. And then watch the Kardashians, watch more football, and just sedation, and then blanket out with some alcohol and some drugs or whatever it is. So there's very little brain activity going on by design. And then government run schools don't teach you these things either. So you have this like perfect concoction of people. You're trying to like argue like, hey, don't you know that this is how our founding, no, like you say founding or whatever, and just, you can see like their eyes just glaze over, things go over people's heads. And I realized, and this was 10, 15 years ago, like, wow, like we have to go back so far, like into the basics, and like rework what we're doing here and get to the youth and start retraining everyone, because we got lost generations here. So anyway, it's a long-winded answer of what you were asking, but it's really the genesis of Bitcoin trading cards in a way. And Aladdin, the same thing, was, how do you get your kids off of social media? How do I get my kids out, playing, interacting, engaging with things in a fun way, and incept truth into people's minds that are usually like really not fun to talk about? They make you want to cry. They're just not easy to talk about. And most people, their eyes glaze over. So how do you do this in a fun way? How do you add this chase to it? This gamification, this collectability. So people are seeing these things, talking about taxation as theft, or decentralization, or centralization, or, the Bretton Woods Agreement. How do you, with really cool art and these different things that you can then start learning and understanding, your kids can ask you questions, and older people are asking you questions, or whatever it might be. So that's been huge, and it's so enlightening to see from me that, people from all ages are picking these things up and collecting them, and then also learning and asking questions and telling stories about how they changed their life. That's one of the coolest things, because again, for me, it fulfills one of these huge things that I saw 15 years ago as a 22-year-old or whatever. It was like, how do we start doing this and incepting it? And then, years later, you're working with people that are doing that in a way that's engaging so many different groups of people. It's crazy. So
are you looking for a place to get all of the Bitcoin news in one-stop shop? Well, I've got it for you. And I already even said it, bitcoinnews.com. They're the #1 place with all the information, all the latest up-to-date stories, and a shit ton of content, all curated in one place. I mean, it doesn't get much better than that. So check them out at bitcoinnews.com. And they've even got a newsletter for you that you could sign up with this referral link down below. I've even got it in the show notes. You can sign up for their newsletter, and they will give you all the curated information straight to your inbox every single Monday so you can start off your week. You don't even have to go to the website. You just pull up your phone and you can just look at it right there and get all the information about what happened in the latest in the Bitcoin space and some upcoming things that are going to be going on that week. All right, enough for me. Now let's get back to the show. Whoosh. Yeah, and I mean it's funny because we were talking a little bit about this like pre-show, but the scarcity aspect, I think that is, I don't know, it's kind of like glazed over a little bit. So I think like the two most important aspects of Bitcoin are just like simply the decentralization, which I don't think we'll ever be able to replicate, and the digital scarcity aspect of it, because I don't think the human mind could just simply comprehend that scarcity aspect. But there is something with cards, right? I mean, we talked a little bit about it. For those who don't know, you should look it up. It's like the Ken Griffey card story. So Ken Griffey Jr. was like one of the best baseball players of all time. They called him the swinging kid. He had one card that came out, and they marketed it as like, hey, it's this scarce card. They're only making X amount. But in reality, they just printed sheets and sheets and sheets of it. So eventually, like everybody kind of found out that like if you didn't have a Ken Griffey card, like you didn't open like a single pack because there's probably one in every single one. And so I don't think the scarcity aspect of like the Bitcoin trading cards and Bitcoin in general can be, I guess, like fully understood. So do you think, I guess that's the most appealing part to, these collectible, I guess people collecting your cards and kind of like, opening some of these newer packs and whatnot is just like, hey, like, I got this Michael Saylor card, for example, and there's only one of 1,000. I don't know. I'm throwing out numbers here. I don't know your exact numbers just yet, but yeah, exactly that.
Yeah, yeah, you're right. We talked about this beforehand, and it's like this weird line we're trying to ride versus collectability and scarcity and educating people. And the problem was that Aladdin was initially giving them away in the first conference, and yeah, all of a sudden people are like, wait, what? This is series one. They're like you said, one of 100 cards, whatever it is, right? One of 500, so they're starting to see the market starting to learn about it. And then people just started like hoarding them. They're starting to take them, they're putting them into cold storage like they would Bitcoin. And of course, figured, typical Bitcoiners, they're seeing the scarcity of it, the collectability, and it's something fun too. I guess this is the other part. It's something fun because, for Bitcoiners, it's tough because Bitcoin is ephemeral. It's in the ether. It's money, but it's on a ledger, and it's digital stone, right? It's you can see the miners and the rigs, you can see stuff like that, but you can't really play with a miner, you can't play with an ASIC, like it's tough to do stuff like that. So we live in this world where you want to be a part of the community, you want to help drive it forward. Not everyone can start a business, not everyone can or has the ability or means or has the idea or whatever it might be. So how can you or wants to be a content creator or whatever, start a podcast or have a blog. So how can you get things in your hands that you can start pushing that mission forward and start satiating some of that other, like that fun part of Bitcoin? Because again, we can talk all day about macro and, we can go to conferences, which we talked about, which is so important, building community. At the same time, like what are some of the gamification aspects? What are some of the fun you can have that when you're in Bitcoin? And then also, oh, by the way, start educating people, kids, young, old, whatever it might be, about this new world. So yeah, it's a challenge to ride this line because the scarcity aspect is amazing and the price keeps going up of the cards because there's only so much we can do because there's only so much. Just like Bitcoin, it's the price just keeps going up, and it's it's a good problem to have, right? Like we were saying, that's great, but you also want it to be for the plebs. You want everyone to be able to get their hands on it. So this is where this line comes, where we're trying to ride the line between having like this Genesis collection that we have that came out, and we had 1,000 boxes, and we've got a couple hundred boxes left, and that we want to sell, but it's a cheaper version of the cards, and they have different borders. They have white borders instead of the flagship orange pill in the pack series. A lot of them have black borders, and we want to get more of the cards into more people's hands. It's a 100-pack box instead of a 24-pack box. And if you get a whole box, you get a box topper, which is a one of one card, maybe in there, a 1 of 99. So you get that collectability part. And then the packs, you can do whatever you want with them. You can give them away, give them to a library, give them to family and friends, give them to, whatever it might be. But the problem was we were finding people that with the Orange Pill in the Pack series, they were scared to give the packs away because they were like, well, what if there's a $5,000 card in here? Or what if there's a $250 card in here? And so people were really stressing out, quite honestly. There's no better way to say it, but people are really like conflicted of what to do. And so that's where it's like, okay, how do we, again, have a bigger series where we can really expand the company, have some of these collaborations. Like I was telling you before, we signed with Fanatics, Fanatics Live. And so we have a show that we're building here over the next month or so to come out and to do with on their platform. So that's going to be huge. But how can we have this product, because the Orange Pill in the Pack series sells out, and it's like, you put limits on people and how much they can buy. It's like, how can the price go? Because you don't want a couple of people just coming and buying them all up. So it's this weird line you're trying to ride of educational cards and making it so there's more of them, more people can get to them. It's cheaper for the average person to get it out and not be concerned that they're going to give away a pack of cards with a $5,000 card or a $3,000 or a $300 card in it. And we can also have, when people are coming in, whether they're watching your show or they're watching a Fanatics live stream, a break when they're breaking cards. Coil Breaks will be the one that'll be doing that. He's been doing a lot of that so far. He's so good at it. And he'll be the one driving that in the Fanatics Live platform. And it's like, how do we have this ability to give things away? And the person who's doing it isn't feeling like, oh, this is a terrible decision, probably. So anyway, that's the thing we're trying to ride. It's great to have scarcity in the business. As you know, you want that. It's built in scarcity. Most businesses are trying to manufacture scarcity so they can sell their product. We have that. And then people ask too, actually, I'll touch on this too. People ask a lot as well, like, what stops you from doing the Ken Griffey thing and doing and being that? And Aladdin's done card burns. So we've done some of those like live, where we've recorded videos of us, like if there's a mistake or something happens, like we'll like burn the cards and like record it or do like a live. And we have like the printer plates. We actually get the printer plates a lot of the times. And I had to see with Aladdin if he has all of them, but we end up getting the printer plates, and they'll either destroy some of them or they'll give them away, things of that nature. But obviously, as a smaller business, not being a Tops or something like that, or a Donruss, we don't have the ability necessarily. Our livelihoods are on the line. If we were to print more of them, obviously, we'd just quickly destroy our reputation and we'd be gone. So it doesn't behoove us to do that, obviously, right now. And the other part is we have like a 500 or 600 person Telegram group already, just in the last 9 months, that have been built up of people that are in there daily, like trading back and forth to each other, conversing, and it's like super tight knit community already. And they're very protective of everything. And they're like, whether it's scammers or like anything. So it's wild, like the raving fans that have already been like built up inside the community. So those things, keeping each other honest is part of it, but also the reputation is the big part of it too. And making sure we're working with good printers as well. So.
Are you looking for a way to help out Bitcoiners who are spreading that orange pill all over the globe? Well, I've got a way for you. You can help out Bitcoin Racing Team. You can check them out right below at bitcoinracing.co/supporters and send them some Bitcoin, send them some fiat to help the boys out. They're crowdfunding all of this and using Bitcoin as the biggest sponsor on a mini series, which is going to have millions and millions and millions of viewers. That's right. So you can help just by giving a little donation down below at bitcoinracing.co/supporters. You can help Orange Pill thousands, maybe even millions. And they're all going to hear Bitcoin when Chris Primetime McKenzie is whipping that Mini Cooper all over the UK. So go ahead and help them out and give them some support at bitcoinracing.co/supporters. All right, now back to the show. Yeah, no, 100%. And I actually, I dealt with a little of that. I was kind of surprised. So I have one here. It's a Bitcoin Racing trading card. It's signed by Chris McKenzie, the driver. So we sold one with signed by Chris and Charlie McKenzie, the brothers behind all that. But I sold that on Scarcity for 100K sats. But I mean, it's going towards. We're making a promotional video, so by the time this comes out, you'll probably see that. So but cool. So I mean, it's a lot of cool stuff, and also I think like it's a cool way to kind of help support some of the people in the industry as well. But adding that scarcity aspect, it's helping stress that thing and kind of the hard money principles behind the cards. So let's dive into the Fanatics stuff though, man. That's fucking huge.
Yes.
I mean, Michael Rubin, I mean, obviously Fanatics has paired up with all of the major sports. And, to me, I was never maybe a big like Magic's card guy or anything like that. Maybe I got into Pokemon a little bit younger, but the baseball cards was always that kind of thing with me. So from that aspect of things, like, how big, like, I don't know, can you put it into words, like how big this partnership is, or are you still kind of grasping onto it?
That's a great question. I mean, honestly, I think we all are trying to grasp at what it means. And because it's, as you know, I mean, like Fanatics Live, they're just coming out with that. Like this is a newish endeavor for them, right? And they're trying to build that platform up as well. There's multiple arms of Fanatics and the business there. So I think, everyone is. And when I say everyone, I mean Bitcoin Trading Cards and Fanatics Live. Everyone's trying to kind of get their feet under themselves in a way. And like, what is this? What is it going to be? We just had a meeting yesterday about this, is early March here, and in talking about, hey, what are our expectations? What are Fanatics Live expectations? What is everyone expecting out of these things? And to have in the, we've got, I'm trying to think. We've got Jonathan Davis. We got Julian Figueroa, Kinetic Finance. There's a bunch of people working on this in the background. Coil Breaks will be the host, but we got some, literally like having directors, JD and Julian, director and producer, working on the show with Coil to set up the show, basically get this set going here in the next month, and really do some like fun stuff, like just things that would have, if anyone's familiar with Gary V, obviously he's got his V friends, stuff like that in the NFT world. And we're obviously a little bit different than that on the Bitcoin side. But, I know that Fanatics Live kind of has aspirations of like, hey, you're gonna, we can kind of have this other theme in that world. I think that's probably how they see it, maybe the best way to say it. But here we go, like we want you to be similar to what this Gary V guy is doing, right? And so that's where Coil is amazing at what he does in the breaks and the energy he brings. And similar to you and what we were talking about, he's been in the hobby for 20 years, so since he was a kid. So I think that everyone's trying to get their feet under them to see what it is, but our goal is to do some stuff that has never been seen before on these breaks, on the lives, probably 2 to 4 hour shows, bringing in, Coil. We were saying yesterday, we want to be able to have like a one-stop shop almost, where people, again, young, could be old, but people can come in and they can learn about cards, the hobby, trading, collectibles, but also Bitcoin, sound money. And, maybe we'll orange pill some people at Fanatics along the way here, and people start to see the opportunity that Bitcoin gives them. And the cards are the transmission belt, for that in a way. That's the oil that kind of greases everything and gets it flowing and brings everyone together. But yeah, it's gonna be really cool to have this kind of come out over the next few months and put this show together with them and the breaks, and do things again, like having, whether it's celebrities coming on and doing stuff together, being at different shows, being at different conferences, and the things that we have in mind of what to do. Again, some of it's still in, can't say all of it. And then some of it we're still literally meeting on and trying to figure out what those things are. But I know, like, we already have a good idea of what it's going to be. And literally the next 2 weeks are going to be those guys actually doing some like dry runs of it and putting it together. And this is the big thing, I think, for everybody, is this is really, you and I talked about this again, like Bitcoin is fun, but most people in the world don't know that. And this is the, and the whole world could be a lot more fun if Bitcoin was the money we're using, right? But again, not a lot of people know that yet. So that's where, as Bitcoiners, we're trying to increase adoption, increase education. And this Fanatics Live partnership, like, we look at it as our team as like, hey, we're the education, or the entertainment, but also education, but entertainment arm of Bitcoin. That's really how Bitcoin Trading Card sees themselves, and bringing fun to the Bitcoin space, because it's needed. And this is why there's young and old that are loving the company, because again, it's ephemeral, it's ethereal. Like, it's like, okay, I can't hold the dang Bitcoin, so it's like, what do we do? The cards give you something to really kind of latch onto, and this is really the introduction into the normie world, the pre-coiner world of, here's sound money, here's a new way of living, here's a new way to a new monetary standard, a new way to transact. It's Bitcoin. So this is going to be the first really iteration, as far as we know of, and that's how we look at it, of we're entering into that world and going to start piercing that world through Fanatics Live and the breaks and what we're doing here. So we're pumped about it, man.
Yeah, I mean, it sounds like you guys are weaseling your way into normie land, dude. I mean, how's that?
Trojan horse, man. Trojan horse. We're trying.
Yeah,
We're trying.
exactly. And I mean, I think like through sports or through, trading cards, like whatever it is, I think like that's the kind of the way to do it. Because we're seeing the big dogs kind of come in now, right? With the 11 spot ETFs passed in the US. Obviously, there's a shit ton of money just being flown in through the Wall Street aspect of things. Like it's their new favorite asset. But like, has this conversation, I guess, do you think, I guess we'll put on your tinfoil hat here. Do you think without those ETFs and without kind of like mainstream traditional finance kind of coming in, that this partnership with Fanatics would have happened? Or do obviously kind of help put some visibility on it, but do you think like because now traditional Wall Street is kind of accepting Bitcoin, that more of these traditional, companies, whatever it is, whether it's Fanatics or somebody else, is more inclined to partner with a company like Bitcoin Trading Cards for that? Do you think that conversation kind of gotten easier because of that? Or do you think it's just like, hey, you guys are doing your thing and, right place, right time kind of thing?
That's a great question, Brandon. Honestly, I think it's both, in the sense that we have I was telling you, a couple of partnerships. One, the Fanatics Live, that just got announced, or just signed, and then which actually hasn't really got announced yet. So it's kind of the first to know here in a way, but it's signed. And we have a couple others that are on the horizon here. These talks all started actually last year. So whether I don't even know, I couldn't say if these people knew about the Bitcoin ETFs necessarily, or what was happening way before the price was pumping, for sure. So because of the cards and because of the rarity and the collectability and just kind of the new dimension it was bringing to the card space, I can confirm that we've had a lot of talks, whether it was with some of the biggest card, franchises on earth. So you can kind of think of those. I mentioned some of them earlier. We've talked to the printers for those people, worked with them, and some of these other partnerships we're working on, and they've all really echoed the same thing, which is, man, this is potential to be one of the biggest projects ever in the hobby. Just because of money touches 8 billion people, like Magic, or, with some of these other things, or baseball cards. Not everyone's a baseball fan, like not everyone. I collected hockey cards. You did baseball, we did our own sports things when we were, collectors, but it doesn't touch everybody. Well, money touches everyone. And the art and the rarity in these is just some of these things infused together has really kind of opened the eyes of numerous potential partners and bigger people out there in these spaces. But I think, to your point though, so that was in the last 6-9 months, these things were already kind of starting. But I think now going forward, some of these talks now, again, greasing the skids a little bit, like we were saying, I think they get sped up a little bit. And some of them, it's kind of like, okay, great. Like we said, prices all-time high now, or whatever it is, ETFs are coming out. So now you can tell, like, these conversations will probably just speed up even more. And it'll just be like, okay, like, what can we do here? How can we get this going quicker? So I think you're correct in your assessment of where you see things headed, for sure.
What's up, everybody? A quick break here to bring you the Orange Pill app. It's the #1 app to connect with Bitcoiners all over the globe. What you can do is sign up using this referral link and connect with Bitcoiners wherever you're at. Whether you're at home, I'm down here in Tampa. I use it to connect with all the local plebs down here. But I'm also traveling around a lot, going to a lot of these conferences, maybe even just going on a little road trip with me and my pup. And I use the Orange Pill app to connect. I was just in London, connected with a bunch of Bitcoiners there, connected with a bunch of Bitcoiners at Bitcoin Atlantis in Madeira. Everywhere you go, everybody's using that Orange Pill app to connect with local Bitcoiners so you can find a local flair wherever you're at. So sign up using this referral link down below. It's even in the comments, and you can get 10,000 sats just by signing up. That sounds like a hell of a deal. 10,000 sats to sign up, and you get to meet with local Bitcoiners. What are you waiting for? All right, I'll see you on the app. Now back to the show. Yeah, I know. I mean, as much as we don't like to look at price, it's like, it's kind of what the normies like, that's what they gets the clicks, right? I mean, it's what they kind of look forward to, right? I mean, what if you look at the kind of Google search trend, it's usually like you could see the Google search trends for Bitcoin kind of peaking at the price top, and that's kind of when things go. So that's why I think we're not at the top yet, because the search trends are still pretty low compared to
Right.
where it's at. So we'll see. This should be a very interesting year. But from your perspective, not only like Bitcoin trading cards, what Bitcoin is going on. I know you're in the weeds, you're grinding real hard. What's something that you're really looking forward to for the rest of this year? We still got, I guess we're about a quarter of the way in. So we still got a long ways to go, man. And it sounds like you guys are running full steam ahead. So is there anything that kind of stands out in your future plans that you're really excited about and ready to get rolling?
So we have a handful of conference packs this year that are coming out, and kind of what we were saying earlier a little bit. It's this challenge of, as a business, when you're trying to launch things, it's tough. Obviously, you're like just 100-mile-an-hour sprint, and then you like stop, and then it's a 100-mile-an-hour sprint again, and then you stop, and then 100-mile-an-hour sprint again, and then you stop. That's what launches are, and we're not unique in that. There's obviously a lot of businesses out there that are in this launch phase a lot of times, or like that's their business or whatever it might be. Or they have a service or whatever it is, but they're constantly doing launches in order to keep their service going, if that makes sense. So that's this conundrum again we find ourselves in, where we've had people talk about membership or wanting VIP stuff. So that stuff we're working on in the background, where it's kind of continuity based. It's maybe a monthly recurring thing or a yearly recurring thing where they get perks on things, discounts on stuff. Maybe it's merch, stickers, binders, stuff like that. So we have these conference packs. So where I was going with that was we have the conference packs. We have a handful of those, like BitBlock Booms coming. We have a halving edition coming out as well. So both those coming in April. We also have Spirit of Satoshi, which we just launched as well with Alex Svetsky and the AI that he's building. And so that's a really cool project, and that's launched. All of these are just in like the first quarter of the year. And then you get into, some other stuff going on, which is the big Series 3 Orange Pill in a Pack. That's the flagship coming out as of right now, slated to be in Nashville in July. And then we've got Pacific Bitcoin, probably going to be doing unconfiscatable again, like we did last year, and Pacific Bitcoin again, like we've done the last 2 years. And then I'm missing one in there, I believe, as well. And then we have another partnership that's, again, not signed yet, legally signed yet, so can't mention it, but that's another thing that might be coming out later this year as well, probably quarter 3 or quarter 4. So, and then Fanatics obviously is all throughout this, doing like the show and what's going on with that there. I don't know if there's what the product line will be out of that necessarily, but we're going to be exploring that as we go forward here. So that's our year in a really quick nutshell. It doesn't sound too crazy when I just lay it all out there, but it's like constant launches and trying to fortunately streamline our systems a little bit. And again, I think it's gonna be wild. Like we were saying, the price, I haven't got to look at price that much over the last couple of weeks. We've been so like head down in the weeds of trying to get this stuff out there. But to that point, we thought, a lot of us were thinking, okay, we've got maybe 6-12 months, maybe 18 months of this bull run where we're getting things ready for this bull run. And here we are, like you said, 70K or it's all-time highs. And it's like, man, it's not even the halving yet. So it's kind of like catching everyone by surprise in a way, I'm sure, just across the board of like, whoa, this is a little bit earlier than we thought. But again, to your point, the search traffic necessarily isn't totally there yet. We're seeing upticks a little bit and stuff, whether it's some orders here and there, and just people searching things or whatever, but it's just not totally there yet. Like you said, we got a long way to go. I think personally, I was talking to Larry Lepard yesterday, and we, like, I know you just had him on somewhat recently too. And, it's like, you're looking at stuff and he's like, man, this could go to 100, 200, 300, 500,000 in a week, like it's Bitcoin. Like humans can't understand the exponential, adoption here and where, like, when there's only 10% of the coins available or whatever it is, no one's selling them. Price is the only thing that moves, kind of like the cards, like we were talking about. So something has to give, and it's only price. So that's where, to me, it's like, man, we could go anywhere. I know, like, that's where Samson again is, like, hey, this is going to 1 million this cycle. Do I think it's going there? I have no idea, but I don't see it out of the picture because who's selling? Who's selling their coins to BlackRock? Give me 25 million a coin, in the next month or two. Sure, maybe I'll do it. Maybe it's like, give me 25 million a coin, and here we go. I'll talk BlackRock, but I don't know, man. Like it's wild. Like all these things, the bull run coinciding with the products coming out that we have, and then you think about all this stuff, right? That's what's the beauty of Bitcoin. It aligns all incentives. It's, like your channel is going to continue growing because guess what? Everyone's going to keep flooding into Bitcoin. You're going to have 99% of the world's not in Bitcoin, so, or at least probably 95% of the world is not in Bitcoin. So it's like people are going to be flooding to content creators, they're going to be flooding to products, they're going to be flooding to the businesses and the wallet providers. And like, is everyone ready? Like that's the thing I think about. Like, is everyone ready? Is the network of people ready for the flood and over the next 6, 12, 18 months? It's gonna be wild.
What's up, everybody? We're taking a quick commercial break here to bring you the sponsor, the Bitcoin Advisor. Are you wondering, how can I guarantee the security of my Bitcoin? How can I shield my Bitcoin assets from any unexpected loss? What happens to my Bitcoin assets after I'm gone? How can I educate my family about these investments? And lastly, can I invest these investments into my retirement fund, into Bitcoin? Well, I can help you with all of that. You can book an appointment with me, the one and only, you can't clone me, Brandon from Green Candle. If you go to the link below, thebitcoinadvisor.com/Green Candle, that's advisor with an E. I get tripped up on that. I'm not a great speller, but I can help you with all of those questions I mentioned earlier. All right. Now book an appointment and I'll see you back at the episode. No, I mean, to be honest, I don't think we're ready, because I don't think that anybody's ready for like traditional finance. I know everybody's kind of like alluded to it, right? There's been traditional finance spot ETFs in different countries outside the US, but nobody's has the money that backing traditional finance in any other country like it does in the United States. And yeah, man, it's all-time high, first time before halving. It's insane. I think we're just going to go up from here. But before I let you go, I want to talk a little bit about building in the bear market, preparing for what we don't even know what the hell's ahead. So let's talk about that. I mean, obviously you guys have a scarce mindset, right? With the trading cards and everything like that. But how was it kind of riding the waves of the bear market? I met Aladdin in Pacific Bitcoin this past year. I don't think I met you there, but yeah, I mean, I've seen you guys everywhere, but obviously dealing with the volatility of being in a startup, kind of a new space, and in a niche product, and in a bear market, that can't be a good recipe for success, but you guys were able to do it. So tell me a little bit about that and how you guys were able to manage all that.
Yeah, another great question. It's been good. I mean, I can't complain really that much. We've everything we've received so far. I mean, we've been very blessed in general, just the team in general. We've had an awesome team, people that can, I don't know, I guess ride out the storms. I don't know a better way to put it necessarily, but ride out the storms. Aladdin's a great leader. He's level-headed, calm, when he needs to be, but he can turn up a notch when he needs to as well. But that's again what makes part of a great leader. So he's good at what he does and in pushing people and being creative. He's a great artist, obviously, and putting those things together and ideas, and very, very creative. But yeah, the market, we've dumped everything back into the cards, really. There's been very little of taking out of the business, we'll say that, from anyone at all. And there's some contract employees, things like that here and there that need to get paid on a contract basis or what have you. But yeah, it's been dumping everything back into the project to really get ready for this bull run. So the last year and a half, again, we've been blessed to have many people volunteer. Really a lot of people volunteering their time, putting in the hours they can to work on things. And, it's been a challenge. It's there's a lot of things. I was just talking to one of the team members yesterday, and, he's just like, hey, just like, there's things kind of like all over the place. And that's startup life. And again, it's not unique to us necessarily, right? But you're trying to get all these people together all of a sudden out of nowhere within a 12 months, 14 month span, bringing people in. Some people leave because they're like, hey, I've got other things that have come up or whatever. And so you're bringing in, we went to, 2 people started it, and then there was 5 or 6 of us for months and months. And then we had a bunch of volunteers. Now, just over the last couple of months, there's about 10 or 12 of us now. So we basically onboarded another 6 or 8 people in different kind of aspects or their different superpowers over the last, handful of months, last 2-3 months. And we've been better for it. But It's finding the right people, right place, right time, right stage in life where they can maybe go a few months or a quarter or two without something, or getting it from other areas or whatever it might be to push us forward because of the greater mission. And seeing that, hey, this could be the entertainment arm of Bitcoin, and bringing normies into the space and really pushing things forward. Because, and you mentioned this earlier, the ETF stuff. The ETF stuff. I get frustrated sometimes because, to me, a lot of the macro just goes away. Bitcoin becomes what we think it is. It just goes away. Quite honestly, a lot of it. And so I sometimes get too idealistic. I'm like, God, why are we talking about this so much? Right. And we all get into it. We all fall into that trap, which is fine. But that probably will be the thing that really stems or spurs a lot of the tide, right? If you have sovereign wealth, money or pensions, and not only these people coming into Bitcoin, that's going to really change the game, obviously, right? The foundation, though, for it to stick, though, is the bottom, from bottom up. And so you have to have both worlds. And that's where one side can't get too idealistic or too religious about their own side. I can't sit here and say, hey, why are you guys talking about macro so much? We need to talk about bottom up. Let's get the kids, whatever. Well, that's going to take a few years for sure. The macro side, again, try to go top down. Well, you're trying to change these overarching massive legacy structures. Good luck. I mean, some of them will go and they'll start falling, hopefully like dominoes, quicker than sooner than later, but they have to work in unison, going toward the middle together. And so that's where I think it's really vitally important for that to happen. But again, the bear market, it's been a challenge, just like I'm sure a lot of the businesses, just in general, people, personal, individually, families, the business as well. We poured everything back into it. And that's why I was telling you, we're on a blitz to sell a bunch of our Genesis boxes, get those out there, get the word out. We didn't have to market last year. That was, we had, the challenge was not selling things. We sold a lot of stuff. The challenge was no one really, we didn't pay really any of us, each other, anything, because we were dumping it back into the business to print more things, to do more things, go to more conferences, pay for the, the team to go do stuff. That was what we were doing, just to, hey, we can see the future in the next year or two could be really bright if we just kind of hold off right now. So right now our push is, again, going on shows, doing stuff, having people on our podcast, getting out marketing, because we just didn't have to do it before. So it's doing it to get some of the educational things out that aren't quite as scarce. There's scarcity to them, but not as much as like the flagship series. So how can we get this education out there, this fun way to educate people? How can we do that and develop this SOP, these operating procedures that we can use going forward now in the coming months that will lead us through this bear market? So.
Yeah, overall, great stuff. And Brandon, you've been very generous with your time here. So I really appreciate you coming on the State of Bitcoin podcast. But why don't you tell people where they can find you and what all you got going on?
Yeah, thanks, brother. I really appreciate you, Brandon. First off, you got a phenomenal name. So I don't know how you're so blessed with your name. So, but no, I appreciate you having me on and giving us an opportunity to come talk about orange pilling people, the Trojan horse that is Bitcoin trading cards, and incepting it into people's minds. I'm Brandon _Gentile on Twitter or X or whatever. You can find me there, and Bitcoin trading cards. I'll send you some stuff too, because we do have an offer. I want to make your show and any shows we go on an offer. So I'll give it to you so that way you can put it in the show notes as well. But we're going to be doing maybe a couple times a year, maybe even quarterly, a big giveaway to people that they can win in a contest or type of thing. So it's going to be probably like a Genesis box. We haven't put it fully together yet, but if you email us, and again, I'll give you this info. It's info@btc-tc.com or btc-cards.com. So I'll give you this info that we have it, because everyone who's watching, it's a couple things. Subscribe to this podcast, number one. So I want people, because I know a lot of people on these shows don't subscribe to the actual host of the show. So subscribe to the show and go and follow us on Twitter at Bitcoin Trading Cards and Instagram. So there's a couple things. Send a screenshot and email us at that email that I just gave. And then we're going to put it together. We do like in our Telegram community, we do like marble races and like duck races and all these different like fun, like contest giveaway type of stuff, and giving away could be anything, cards, merch. And so we actually have one tonight coming up. I know people won't be able to see it tonight, but we're going to be doing these more regularly, where people are on Friday nights or just during the week. We're doing stuff. We're doing card breaks, gearing up for the Fanatics live stuff. So people will, just by being involved, get like awesome prizes, get things that are really valuable just for showing up, just for being part of the community. So I'll give you those notes so you can put those in there. But if people go, like I said, go to that, binders and stickers, series 2 packs, which are obviously worth a lot of money. So we'll be giving those away into like a big drawing or a big raffle or contest, basically. So everyone who does that comes in and sends us a screenshot and says, hey, look, we subscribed to your email list. We subscribed to Green Candle in Brandon's podcast, and we followed you guys. Here you go. And then we'll enter all those people into some of these contests we do quarterly or whatever to get some really cool stuff. So appreciate it, man. I really appreciate you having me and the team on. I really appreciative, grateful.
Of course, man. Big things ahead with Bitcoin trading cards. And like you said, I'll put all that stuff in the show notes, so be on the lookout for that. And we'll catch you all in the next one. Thanks so much for tuning in to this great episode. If you enjoyed this one and you want some more content, click on the link right here and check out my latest interview with Tom Luongo. We get into it all. If you've known Tom, he's a wild one, so stay tuned. And if you found some value in this podcast, please smash that like button, hit that subscribe button so you get notified of the next videos. All right, I'll catch you at the next one.